Well, again, yeah. So again, there's a great comment on every Instagram or every MFA Inspo album that it's from one of the old mods, and it goes, "Basics are good. Lots of people are basic." It's a great pinned comment there, and that's why for the last half hour of this, I really want to talk about how do you do it, because again, Kiyoshi kind of touched on it a little bit there, but how do you take these ideas that are a little bit too much for some people, and how do you make it palatable? And of course, I have a different point of view, because for me, the whole goal of my blog is to explain the thought process of those things, and hopefully people will connect with it and try something new. And Kiyoshi, to give him credit, he provided a very great example of, you see it on other people a lot. You see it, you audit yourself when you try it, you find out what works for you, and then you apply what you've learned. You use yourself and cross-reference it with your inspiration albums. I think that inherently is probably the way that we all, or at least Spencer and I, try new things. We'll see, like, oh, look at that, a Lee 101J. I don't own that. I don't own a denim jacket, but I'll see Chase wear it. I've seen a bunch of other people do it, and then eventually I will try one on and find out what works for me, and then incorporate it. And I'm just curious to the rest of you, like Jason, I know that you have, we all have different tastes and style. How do you find a way of incorporating something that might be a little too much? Like, the 6-on-1, for example, with the Aloha shirt.
Mm-hmm. I just, I kind of just do it. And then, once I get it on, I immediately will feel like if it's right. Mm-hmm. The moment I put on, like, the Aloha shirt and then put the double-breasted jacket over it and, like, put the collar, gave it the runaway collar, I was like, that's it. We're done here.
Thank you for using the correct term of the runaway collar.
Yeah. This is it. This is the look. This is the vibe.
This is it, Michael Jackson.
Yeah. It's true.
Yeah. This is called the vibe.
This is called the vibe.
Oh my God. Vibe.
And I experimented like a lot with like sneakers is where I really would try to figure out where my gig was going to be there, because I don't wear like dress shoes as often because I stand a lot during the day, and as wearing dress shoes and standing for 8 hours a day causes a lot of foot pain and then regular pain. So I wear like
T-pain.
Always T-pain.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So, like, I try a lot of sneakers, and, like, while I had, the Stan Smiths and the Superstars, I never really liked wearing them, because I just inherently felt boring. I was like, I hate this. And I started wearing, like, I have, like, these, white high-top Chucks, that, Chuck Taylors, Converse, if you will, for the uncultured. So I wear those all the time, and I was like, oh, this is a really cool vibe. I'm wearing like suits. Yeah, I'm wearing the suit. I got like, and I'm wearing Chuck.
That should be the shirt. That should be the T-shirt, man. We gotta make a shirt.
This is called Vibe.
This is called Vibe.
Yeah, everything. This is called Vibe.
Keep going.
Yeah, even with T-shirts too, I experienced like Kiyoshi said. It was kind of trying to figure out what fits for me. Like for me, the solid shirt under the suit, I don't like it too much. To me, it doesn't say much about my personality, which is why I tend to wear like a band tee or like the Quarantine University, something that is interesting, something else that I like on top of, so I have layers like an onion to my
Is that your Shrek reference of the day?
It is.
Okay.
So like it's like, oh, I'm not just a guy wearing a suit. I could wear a suit, and I could wear the same. Like in the fall, I wear all like striped dress shirts with the tie and all that. But I think with like the band tee or some form of graphic tee, it shows that that I'm not just painting by numbers here. And of course, the soft suit does the same thing. But when I'm working in the store, I respond better to myself, and people respond better when it's like, okay, I have other aspects. I'm not just wearing it. It shows that I'm not wearing the suit because it's the uniform. It's it's a choice.
Right.
And it's a vibe.
Yeah, this is called Vibe. I think that's inherently true, and I want to get MJ's. Actually, yeah. Before I get into my things, because I always talk a lot. MJ, why don't you tell us? Because I know that you've had internet problems jumping in and out.
Yeah.
Because again, Spectrum has been going on. But yeah, I mean, because you don't have to wear suits as much. You don't have as much tailoring as say compared to me or Spencer. But you've been not just experimenting, but how do you find on the subject of being bold? Maybe not trying a trend out, but like, okay, well, taking in stock of what other people may project from your coworkers or from, our friends in Psy. How do you find that you try things out and make it, do you lean into it, or do you think you say fuck it?
You mean as far as like recommendations from other people, or?
Well, because again, the whole thing was like being perceived as being too fashionable, like drawing too much attention. How do you reconcile that with your style and and where it is right now?
I mean, I don't mind drawing the attention.
Yeah.
Like, right? It's like, I mean, if people notice, people notice. That's fine. I'm pretty sure we're all on the same page. We don't go into it being like, oh, take a look at this, everybody.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's fine. At least right now, since the amount of people that I see is extremely limited. People at work are pretty much good for it.
Right.
They're also like into their own things, clothing wise too. So they still get it, even though they might not be in the same space as far as menswear.
Right.
So I think that's cool. It's one of those real recognized real sort of deals.
Okay.
Game recognizes game.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like I'll take the compliments. I'll take people noticing. It doesn't have to be a big deal.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, I mean, like, can you think of a specific thing that you thought was a little too crazy, but you're like, fuck it, I'm gonna do it anyway?
I don't know. Still wearing anime t-shirts.
Ooh, love it.
Yeah, but I mean, we all
like,
kind of. I mean, I still wear my Star Wars t-shirts.
I mean, like, that was the thing, right? It's like, I don't want to, like. It was like at the beginning of when I started, buying clothes and taking your clothes. It's like, I don't want to look like,
I gave them to you.
I don't want to look like
right.
I don't want to look like a nerd anymore or whatever. I don't want to, right? But it's like, you know what? It's like I can wear the video game and anime stuff still, and it's still cool,
Yeah.
But I wear it differently now, right? I don't own cargo shorts anymore, so.
I mean, Gurkhas. You could argue that that's kind of like a cargo.
Well, see, that's what I mean. It's the upgrade. So it's like, it's like.
I mean, cargo shorts
from the past and putting it.
I feel like I could wear cargo shorts now if they were high waisted, had pleats, and had cool pockets. I don't think I could wear like the nylon ones where they have like a drawstring, like hem opening, whatever.
I mean,
they also zip up into pants.
I'm referring mostly to like the 2010 cargo shorts that like every Filipino guy wore with a black.
Oh my god! Yeah.
Oh no!
You know what I mean? With high top basketball shoes and Nike.
That's
socks.
right. Good lord, dude. But I mean,
it's burned in my head.
I on that subject of upgrading and everything, it's important, I think, if people watching this are taking anything away, which it sounds like we're just having an echo chamber. But hey, if you're watching this on YouTube and you come across this for some random reason, hopefully this sticks with you. But yeah, it's about having the upgrade items. It's like, obviously, if you're wearing like you're in college and you're wearing a shitty like Men's Warehouse suit, not the thing, hey, if that's what you can afford, that's fine. But the idea of like the kind of like really bulky, heavily padded shoulder kind of thing. You probably are going to be noticed, and you probably won't look good at the same time. Wearing like a baggy, or like. But if you have the right piece, people will notice and won't think anything of it. It also takes into personal account, like personal taste, and your confidence level, I think, is really important.
Yeah.
And even then, when you look at, again, when people talk about, oh, I can't wear like the whole wide leg chino with a camp collar shirt with white socks cropped with like fucking loafers or with like a sneaker or something, yeah, you might not look cool to like a fucking like finance guy, but I'm sure those indie girls are gonna think you're
Never
really
will
cool.
be.
It's like,
never look cool to a finance guy.
when I was reading all those comments, when I was reading all those comments from that Reddit thread, it's like they kind of recognize like, oh yeah, if you work in a creative industry or with young people, it works out. But that's where the world is going. That is where the demographics are. People are constantly looking at stuff. A lot of movie stars now are younger and becoming tastemakers in their own right. So it's like, it's this idea that they are being held to the past. And one great way to adopt those things is to kind of have the confidence and the know-how, like we talked about before, having the gut check of finding out if it's right for you. Because there's nothing wrong with sticking with your own style. I think what's wrong is the mentality of it. But if we're talking about my advice for becoming fashionable or trying something bold and making sure it looks good, is that you got to do it and be slouchy at the same time, man. Like I don't think that all the new stuff I do now are things that I don't think anyone would notice or look at anymore.
Yeah, you gotta lean into it. Find what you like and lean into it, and that's how you find real discovery in yourself. Because if you're just going around trying this, trying that, oh, I'm gonna try a pleated pant, but it's a low-rise pleated pant. You're gonna be like, oh, I don't like pleats now. Yeah. Let's just lean into it.
Right.
Yeah, that kind of goes back to what we mentioned last time. How, as far as trying new things and not wanting to, drop a chunk of change on it, you still want to get a pretty good version of what you want to try, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to get like the scuffed version and be like,
yeah,
I don't like this, and then it just ruins it for you.
Right.
Yeah. No, exactly.
Yeah.
And what I was going to add on to was also like, you just got to adopt that kind of mentality. You leaned into it, and you got to be like slouch. You got to act as if it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
So you got to
you got to wear the clothes and then immediately forget about them. I think I've said
and that works with if you're like, especially like right now, you could dress, you could try stuff out at home. And then,
and you know what I'm going to say? Like, fucking, like, every big tech company is announcing it's like, hey, we're just going to be, like, work from home is an option now forever. So it might be, like, you might just be, fully dressing for yourself in the near future.
Yeah. And I think
the tracksuit for me was a big risk. I didn't think I was going to like it. And I just leaned into it. And I was like, oh.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
And one thing I'll bring up is.
And look at me now.
Yeah, go ahead, Kyoshi.
When you've got you got the foundation level of like good basics that fit you, some fundamentals, right? So then it's like you start eyeing pieces or ideas, and one thing I will say is, let's say you're like, oh, I want to try a tracksuit. And maybe you're like, oh, maybe I'll just get like this cheap one just to see if I like it, which is definitely one way to go. But I would also argue that in some cases, you might find yourself, if you've been like super fixated or you just absolutely see something and fall in love with it, maybe what you would consider like a grail item. And that is part of like stepping outside of your comfort zone, being more fashionable, whatever you want to say. Maybe just get the grail.
Yep. Yeah,
because
they spent $300 on a tracksuit.
I've always found that anytime I get like the little bit like cheaper version, or like the kind of the cheaper, basically the cheaper, more affordable version of the thing I actually want, like I'm not happy with it. I end up getting rid of it. But there are very, very few quote unquote grail items that I hemmed and hawed over and like bit the bullet and spent the money that didn't work out. Like those have almost always universally like worked out for me. And I asked a friend about this. I was talking about this randomly with a friend yesterday, and he said the same thing too. He's like, yeah, the only thing that I got that didn't work out was like a pair of shoes, and that's just because I bought the wrong size and it was on sale. I couldn't return it. So he's like, otherwise I love them. I would totally wear them, but I had to get rid of them. So that's just, I think, focus. If you find yourself super fixated on something, you're fixated on it for a reason. Don't necessarily go around trying to like find the alternative to it. Because honestly, you're fixated on this item that's going to help you do something different or achieve a different look or to, go into a different style direction maybe. You're fixated on that for a reason. Like that's part of your gut instinct. That's part of who you are. Listen to it.
Yeah.
Right. I totally agree with that.
Speaking of friends, yeah.
I mean, that's kind of where I was, right? I mean, like, a lot of it was buying vintage and approximating eventually, like, you know what, I want that thing, and of course, you buy a Rick jacket at the end of the day, or you buy the Aldens because nothing kind of compares. That is a great thing. Good. I guess call forward because we're going to talk about berets on Saturday because I really was inspired by that one.
Enjoy your important meeting.
Yes,
enjoy your sleep.
Yeah.
Speaking of friends, that's like another thing. Like if somebody, one of your friends has something that you've had your eye on, and it's like an upper tier item, but you might not want to bite the bullet, and then you do end up getting like, okay, I'll just spend money on the one that costs like a fourth less or half as much. You might not get that same sort of satisfaction you do from the better one, right?
Yeah, the desire doesn't go away.
Well, you'll never be satisfied with that.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, we talked about it last week as well with buying a cheaper alternative, but we never really thought of it as a final conclusion because we know we'd be unsatisfied in that position. It was more just a stepping stone. It never works as a final. It never works as an ultimate position. One issue with the philosophy of buying exactly what you want and not skimping on price at all, saving up for a while if need be, is it's only really the domain of someone who at the very least has a solid knowledge of menswear basics, right? Because you brought up your friend who bought his grey, and the one time it didn't work out for him was because he didn't know the basics of getting shoes that fit him properly. So there's a bit of a danger
or was
there.
it he'd like never tried that brand before, and
it was more the fact it was like a brand that he couldn't go in and try them on.
Yeah,
and it was like empty. It was made to order, so no.
Oh no.
Oh shit! But
it was like a group made to order, like on Style Forum, I think, and like it was just like, oh shit. Well, I got the wrong size.
That's true.
I would probably end myself.
That's the thesis.
Yeah, but okay, so that might not have been the case in your friend's instance, but still, if a noob has a desire to get bespoke Benchmade shoes, he should probably wait a while. He shouldn't soon outright off the bat, I think.
I don't think they. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I don't think they would be fixated on bespoke Benchmade shoes, unless they knew the basics.
The basic MFA boys just
No.
I'm saying people do that. Where, I mean, it is rare, Spencer, like you're about to say, but. I mean, of course, if someone recommends it, because some people, who are at the income level, will probably be like, "Oh, well, if that's
I can afford to lose that. I can afford to lose it."
Just like I see at Ascot Chang, people's like first, like they buy bespoke shirts when they are like
their trial order is like $2,000 or something, right?
Feel like they want to be in it. So, but in terms of going back to not just moving back, basically like attempting to do it and. Not just basics of items, but the basic overall styling. Like say, moving on from a navy blue suit, white spread collar shirt, and black knit tie. There are definitely ways to kind of mitigate the idea that you're standing out too much or you're being too formal, which is probably exactly what these guys are talking about.
Yes, and to that end, Ethan, I'd like to stress the importance, I think, of moderation in that regard, which is you don't have to change everything all at once, and you really shouldn't, because I don't care how confident you are. If you show up one day wearing a jacket, trousers, socks, a shirt, the whole 9 yards, completely different from what you're wearing the day before or the last time you saw those people, there's going to be a level of anxiety there.
I don't think we've ever disagreed with that.
Yeah, and also I don't think that would ever happen unless someone out there is watching it for the first time, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna buy a brown check jacket, blue stripe spear point, and blue fuller tie right now.
If money is no object.
Hey, if anyone's watching me and you consider me to be a true influencer, I guess that could happen to you.
It goes to the idea of MFA people looking at your outfit and saying, "Oh, look at that combination of socks, trousers with that face. I can't wear that."
I think when we said most people don't really notice what we're wearing, I think we were mostly talking about just people on the street, like random.
That's the thing, though. That's the whole forming of the argument, where it's like these people assume that people on the street are going to notice it, but it's really just them not being comfortable with what we're doing. Because again, people we've established, and also it's true, people really don't care too much, and if they do care, they don't mention it like ever.
Right.
So
yeah, you're not that important, my guy. No one's really paying that much attention to your face.
Well, I guess that's my thing is always going to be like I am always in this constant pursuit of this idea that classic menswear is just like regular clothes. And how do you do that? You just treat it like it's regular clothes. That's why I wear bucket hats with like fucking everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the suits aren't special.
Well, because you've said it's like you've said that when putting together an outfit, you just think of like this is not a sport coat. It's like this is just a jacket, and I'm wearing this with pants and a shirt.
Yeah, that is exactly that's how I think of it, and that's what makes everything so easy to kind of make. And if you treat it as such, people will notice, because again, my whole point is, the idea of a guy wearing the suit looks like something in their head, right? Even if it's a good example, right? It's like let's say like Ryan Gosling or someone, like kind of undercut hair, very clean shaven, or maybe stubble, whatever, wearing like the blue suit or whatever, wearing it's a nice look. But if you get a little punk rock about it, and you challenge that expectation, both by taking some bold choices, but also trying to fade into the background, getting a little slouchy with it, people will be forced to say, like, okay, well, he's wearing that, but he doesn't act like that, And I think that's what's inherently important. Like today, I'm wearing like a wool, a wool silk linen houndstooth jacket, kind of bold compared to some people, right? It's not a blue jacket, not even like a dark brown jacket, but I'm wearing OCBD, whitewashed jeans, some black loafers, and a bucket hat. I don't think anyone out there is going to be like, well, you're too much. Like all those, not only are the colors fairly muted, but like no one who has this idea of suiting in their mind would ever think of a guy would never think of a guy would wear it like that, And I think, of course, we know people who would do that, but to a regular person who we've established might think of a suit as being like this whole dweebish or being like a nerd, being super formal all the time, or being overly fancy, whatever. This is contrasting with all of those ideas all at once, while still maintaining, classic menswear without leaning too far into like streetwear or avant-garde or high fashion. And that is kind of the point. At least on my blog and the way I dress, is that I'm able to kind of do it that way. And if you like that, if you want one example of wearing classic menswear and making it look easy, that's one avenue for it. You could just say it's rugged ivy or whatever, but taking those ideas, and finding a way to make it contrarian but acceptable. It's a hard journey, but sometimes it starts off with just maybe growing out your facial hair, right? Like that inherently can play with some stuff. Growing out your regular hair, right? I don't have the undercut anymore, and I feel like that adds to the whole vibe of just being slouchy all the time. The simple attitude or affectation of pocket fisting inherently is something that a lot of people seem to have a problem with, but regular people don't care.
A lot of people do.
It's
like, it's like when I was at Men's Warehouse, there were people that preferred to keep the pockets sewn shut so that there was never any possibility of using them.
90% of my clients don't want me to open up the pockets.
Why? They're pockets. Like I get the same thing.
They're special pockets. They're special pockets.
It's funny on that note. I'm sure we'll have
because the suit's a special occasion garment. It's no longer it has no utilitarian value to those people left.
This is kind of a fun. Maybe I'll highlight this at 9:46 or something around about pocket fisting, because I remember the first time I put an article like that out there. it got really bad. People hated that article. They were like, "This is the most banal thing I've ever seen in my life," you know. And one guy, he was, I know it's weird, right? A weird word to say.
Banal,
right?
Is that like
as in boring?
It means like boring, but it's a weird thing. But I remember that comment. I was like, that's first off, that's a weird thing to say, but also like that.
Maybe he
work.
meant like what a banal thing to care about.
Yeah, could be.
Yeah.
Okay,
could be.
Then,
but anyway, so at this whole thing,
banal.
A guy commented
That's how it's pronounced.
who is a pretty prominent. This is also kind of early on in my mentor journey. It's probably like 2015, 2016, where I was starting to kind of get into Jake Grantham and pocket fisting and everything. And this guy who is pretty prominent, he wore suits a lot, very Suit Supply. He probably worked for Suit Supply. Like he had a lot of
he had the
cool
vibe.
suits or whatever. He had that kind of vibe. He was all like, "Oh, I thought this was cool because of #menswear, and I hated it. Like all my suits are ruined now because like they are sagging at the pockets." And it's like, I don't know about you. You're probably new to this whole thing, but if your pockets look like this, you probably would never wear them again. And he took a picture of his suit, and it's kind of like the jetted pocket was kind of like sagging and all weird. And I'm like,
there's nothing wrong with that. I dig it.
It's being used.
And it's like the
God
thing is,
forbid,
when people talk about what people notice and what people see on the street, what people ultimately, when you talk about being too fashionable, when people talk about moving beyond basic style moves, what they will notice is the vibe that you are projecting.
Mm-hmm.
People notice that all the time because again,
one big vibe check.
Huh.
Yeah, I mean, this is called vibe, guys.
It's the difference between wearing a false facade of sorts and actually wearing a lived-in second skin. Whereas if you have the suit that has the pockets sewn shut is perfect on the guy who's owned it for like 10 years.
I mean, I think there's this.
10 years.
I don't know. There's this poem that I think like dye workwear. A poem. No, I don't know. I don't know if it's a poem.
Is this the English podcast?
I have no idea if it is a poem or it's just written words in sequence that dye workwear cited in an article. I mean, it's poetry, prose, whatever. That's
Those
all
are
it
the
is.
two options.
That's it. But it's all about.
This is the English podcast.
It's about this guy. It's about this guy who like had this old dressing gown that was like perfectly fitted to him over the years, and he replaced it. And he's like, you know what? This new one fucking sucks. It's like someone gave me this as a gift. I'm wearing it. I hate it so much. I miss my old dressing gown. And here's the dumb part. He bought a bunch of new furniture to go around to go with the new gown. And that's what I would never do. The point is, which wasn't really the point of the poem, as I realized very early on in telling it, but there was no way out. But the point is, the point is like once something is like lived in and like that, like if I had a jacket where I use the pockets so frequently, probably with the same items, like I always keep my keys in this pocket, I always keep my notebook in this pocket, whatever. That it started like shaping to the things that I use it for. I would love that.
Yeah,
I do love when that happens.
I mean, it's like jeans, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's inherently a big part of jeans, and
that's why like
really
the raw denim
mentality.
thing was so big. We talked about it last week.
It's definitely a hard mentality to get into, though.
It's very counterintuitive. It goes against it basically goes against everything that the average guy, I use quotes here, the average guy would know about suits. So I do understand where the difficulty is, but you really should embrace that. That should be that should be style nirvana, I think, at the very top.
It is. I mean, that we talk about. I think we've coined fashion nirvana as like a common theme on the.
I don't think we probably didn't coin that. I don't want to claim that.
No, I meant like.
Okay.
It's like a vocabulary term of this stream now because we brought it up, about achieving fashion nirvana. And I was talking to my friend Florian about this, and fashion nirvana. I finally if I could come up with a definition, it's not that that your wardrobe is completely the same at all times. It's the fact that you're able to add things and experiment with your own wardrobe, and feel confident in it that it still feels like yourself, and you're not trying to do something else. That is fashion nirvana, at least to me, and. I wish people were to see that, because again, we talk again to the beginning of this whole discussion. It's about seeing fashion as art, and pretty much the same thing as any art form. We talk about Miles Davis, a great example of both compositional style evolution and fashion style evolution. It's always always this kind of pursuit of everything, and it gives you no favors to think of clothing as being as striving to be safe and standard, and also the fact that things are quote too fashionable doesn't really apply. It's almost more so whether you want to put that moniker on yourself. It's always going to be that.
Clothes aren't too fashionable. They can be too fashionable for you, but they're not too fashionable. There's no standard of what. There's no standard.